Welcome to The Point, a podcast by Apex Benefits and dedicated to employee benefits thought leadership. You can find more episodes for free on iTunes by searching The Point or Apex Benefits. Please rate, review, and subscribe to be the first to know about what we have in store for you. To learn more about Apex Benefits, please visit our website at www.apexbg.com or find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. Let's get to the point together.
Hey everyone, it's Erin Albert, and I wanted to come to you today with a podcast that's a little bit different and off of the beaten path, yet still shows some of our expertise right in-house here at Apex Benefits. My conversation today is with Brooke Salazar, and she is both an HR consultant for Apex Benefits, and she's also Apex's in-house associate counsel. What we really focused on in conversation with Brooke today is the HR consultant piece. And Brooke is, like me, an attorney, but we both have expertise that we brought to law school. So Brooke, in terms of her HR consultant expertise role, shares with us her history in managing and working within human resources. But also, Brooke taught human resources acumen, employment and labor, and diversity and inclusion classes for the Society for Human Resource Management. She also received her Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from the Indiana University at Bloomington, and she earned her JD from Indiana University Robert H. McKinney School of Law. She's licensed as an attorney in the state of Indiana as well. And with that, Brooke and I have a delightful conversation, kind of tagging onto the art of looking for and finding a new or better job during a pandemic, but from the point of view of the HR professional. And we discussed in our conversation not only today recruiting, but then onboarding a new employee during a pandemic and the challenges associated with that. So give a listen to my conversation with Brooke Salazar today on the podcast. We have an exciting guest with us today on the podcast. Brooke Salazar, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Erin. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. I follow a lot of your stuff, and you're kind of a Swiss Army knife in a great way. You are an HR consultant and Apex's in-house associate counsel. So I really wanted to talk to you today about the HR consulting piece. So as you know, I've been running a series on the Edutainer podcast about how to, or the art of getting a new or better job during a pandemic, after seeing and not only experiencing it myself, but then becoming a part of the Apex family during the process of COVID-19. I wanted to bring in your kind of flip point of view on HR expertise. So with that, I would love to ask you the first question that I inevitably ask every guest. How did you get to where you are today in your own career?
That's great. It's definitely been a journey. So I have always supported HR teams prior to working them in legal departments. So whether that's for small to mid-size or Fortune 50 companies, my background was as a paralegal to support the HR essentially. And then I thought, I think I can do this HR thing. And I really enjoy interacting with people and making the compliance stuff fun, if you will, if one can do that. And so I jumped into HR, and I had been doing that for a number of years, including managing recruiting. And I was asked to essentially go to law school for the company. And so that's what I did. And I went to law school part-time and maintained my presence in the business world. And I was fortunate enough to have found Apex and started working for Apex. And that, I love that analogy, that Swiss Army knife type of role.
Yeah, it's a good one. And you and I kind of share that kindred spirit there, I think, as well. So today I wanted to break down kind of the flip side, the mirror side, if you will, of looking for a job from the HR expert's point of view. So we've got a couple of questions here. Where first do you think jobs should be posted or could be posted for free in this era of COVID-19, the fact that we can't necessarily meet face to face? Has there been a different approach in your opinion?
Absolutely. So I always say there is no HR department that's overstaffed or overfunded. And part of building our credibility as HR folks is being able to talk to executives about costs and what we have saved, ROI, things like that. So great places to post job recs or requisitions for free are local Facebook groups. So I saw one today that she said she was only going to post it on her internal social media and this Facebook group essentially. Another great place for free is Handshake, and another one is Hubstaff. And so being able to save money on those types of postings is a great thing to be able to take back to your leadership team.
Cool. And I didn't even think of Handshake when I went through the series on the edutainer. So thanks for sharing that one. The requisitions requirements are kind of narrowing for candidate pools. So what could HR folks do for that?
Well, I think it's important, and I know from my experience in HR, especially managing recruiting, that going to the hiring manager and really discussing what the requirements are can be challenging, especially when you have a lot of open recs. However, when you get a rec that is inappropriately narrow, so we can talk about things like a bachelor's degree that's requirement for a help desk support. Is that absolutely necessary? And if that is necessary, does that degree need to be in something or something specific, or is it just so they have it? And if it's just so they have it, then we really need to dig into that, especially from a diversity and inclusion standpoint, to understand what that actually means. And so we all know that hiring managers want that rock star, they want the unicorn. However, it's really important to communicate with them what the reality of the candidate pool looks like out there with your salary range.
What if an HR hiring manager are just not connecting on what the ideal candidate should be? What if there's a struggle there in understanding? Help us unpack that.
Absolutely. I'll share one of my experiences. So I had one of my recruiters was having a really hard time filling a position because the hiring manager kept saying, no, I want a rock star. I want a rock star. And so in that case, I said, we need to sit down with the hiring manager so we understand exactly what that means, because I don't know what a rock star is. And I can't label that. I could put that on a job ad, but that won't get me where I need to go. So in this day and age, I would say you need to schedule either a virtual call or something where you can see that individual face to face. So when you dig into that, what does rockstar mean to you? Does rockstar mean to you a proactive thinker? Does it mean a strategic thinker? Does it mean someone that is more tactical, that is going to carry out exactly what you've given them and is maybe going to be happy in that role for a long time? Or are you looking for someone that's really looking to grow and develop that career, and so they're going to be a lot more strategic in their thinking? However, that may mean that they're not going to stay very long, which is okay too. However, where are they going to go? So really digging into what does that mean to you through examples is the way that we really started to understand what rockstar meant. And as an aside, Erin, rockstar to that hiring manager meant somebody that showed up 5 minutes early to work. Never would have gathered that, never would have thought that's what he wanted, but that's what he wanted, was somebody that really put a value on punctuality. And so that's how we shifted and kind of reconnoitered our search.
Interesting. That seems like not a very high bar for a rock star, but maybe it is in that industry. I don't know.
Right? I mean, that's what I say when I say, I don't know what rock star means to you.
Is it a
And so
Coldplay? Is it a Van Halen? Is it a boy band, or is it Britney Spears? What are we talking about here when we're talking about rock star?
that's exactly right. And so being able to have those conversations and really giving examples and even asking, well, who do you in our organization consider a rock star? Well, why do you think that person is a rock star? That will help you get to the meat of where you're going.
Gotcha. Everybody has a different definition, I suppose. What about the HR professional that's posted that job description, but for some reason they're not getting the responses they were hoping for from the rec? What can they do?
Well, I think it's always important, first, if you have an applicant tracking system or ATS, really look at your filters and what you are attempting to filter out in your algorithms, because you don't know what's on the other side of that inbox. So you don't know what that ATS has rejected because you're not seeing it. Or that platform, if you said, I require X, Y, or Z, it could be filtering out quite a few people that you don't even realize. And so first I would start there and saying, okay, who am I filtering out? Why is that happening? Are my filters appropriate? And then I would go back to those Facebook groups and those local job boards, because right now that's where a lot of people, I even see candidates posting on there. This is my resume. Because of COVID, I've been reduced. However, this is what I'm looking for. So it's a really great way to try to reap candidates, because what will happen is folks' friends that know they're looking will tag them in the comments.
Okay.
And I think it's a really great thing to watch.
Well, what's your opinion, Brooke, on video job advertisements? I mean, everybody has a job description that's in print, but what about video? I think it's really become super important holistically on social media right now, but how has it affected HR?
I love videos. Even though I'm basically an old soul that's 112 years old, when you see an employee's potential colleague on a video saying how excited they are to work for that organization, there is no job description, however much slang or however much you want to talk about your foosball table, is ever going to take the place of that excitement being brought to them live. And so I think that's why you're seeing that a lot more. I think it's impacting HR folks, because part of being in HR is we do things by the book, and this is a new book, it's a new chapter, new library. And so those may be getting a little slow to get those videos. However, as the more you do, the more it'll speed up and the better the process will get.
What about candidates, Brooke? Let's flip it from your expertise and point of view and go back to the candidates here. What do they need to focus on if they're hunting right now, in your opinion, in this new era of the pandemic, the fact that we can't really meet people face to face all the time? What do they need to think through?
Sometimes it can be hard to communicate with your friends and family that you're looking for a new opportunity. However, in this process, it's important to be vulnerable, and your friends and family want to help you, and you don't know who they know. And so, for example, I know I get all the time questions about, do you know if so-and-so is hiring, or my nephew is looking, and that's absolutely okay. And I welcome that type of communication, because you never know how you can play matchmaker to the right organization, to the right person.
Couldn't agree more. And I always, when I see somebody on my feed, want to help them too. And I think it's as simple as on a LinkedIn thing, liking their post, sharing their post, and getting them connected to people within your own network. So great tips there. All right, let's flip the conversation from recruitment to onboarding. Let's say you got the rock star that shows up 5 minutes early. How are you going, or what suggestions do you have, Brooke, for people to stay engaged with the candidate from the offer to the very first day that they start? Because sometimes there's a lag.
There is a lag, and you want them to remain excited about the position because essentially you don't want them to get swept up by another recruiter, right? So I think everything in HR goes back to just good business sense as well. It's not more of a kumbaya feeling, it's more of a, for the business, this is the right thing to do. So whether that's some companies send swag, like if you have a 2-week delay, they'll send it after the first week. I've seen really touching notes from hiring managers being sent to their new employees saying how excited they are to welcome them to the organization, to frankly donuts being sent the day before the first day of work, or coffee. So I think, especially in times that budgets are tight, a thank you note, or depending on how long that lag time is, if it's a month, if it's 3 weeks, a note in the mail is always nice, or emails, just checking in, making sure that they're stepping through the process. So whether or not you have your IT folks working with them, or they're filling out new hire paperwork prior to starting, whatever that looks like for your organization, it's just important to handhold them through, because essentially you're still early. So it's not your first date, but it's still your second date, and you want to make a really good impression.
Yeah, and taking that a step ahead, I guess, how does either the hiring manager or HR expose that new employee to the culture when we're all kind of still working remote or staggered or some combination thereof?
That's a great question. Part of it is, and I hate to be more of an advocate for Chime meetings and Zoom meetings and these type of virtual meetings, but essentially you cannot do better than being able to see someone's face. And Gen Z is teaching us that they don't want less human interaction, they want more human interaction, they just want it remotely. So COVID aside, this is what the market is starting to doing. So it's starting to shift. However, to be able to expose culture, I think you do your meetings and you just reiterate to your current staff that being able to see folks on video is vital to interacting with that new employee. And so you still do those things that you would normally do, you just do them in a virtual space.
Got it. And then how about new employees staying engaged inside of this new normal? I know one of the things that we didn't really talk about in the recruitment piece, but I think is really germane to ask if you're a candidate, is how the company is handling COVID-19 and safety. So can you talk a little bit about maybe talking about the policies of the organization and how that can keep people engaged working remotely or starting remotely?
Sure, I'll confide in you that when Apex went back to work, when they told me, I was nervous. And especially for a new employee, that doesn't know the level of responsibility that Apex leadership has, it would be nerve-wracking. However, they shared with me the return to work plan, which was a lengthy document, and that helped me feel safer. Then when I was in the office and am in the office, I see our leadership cleaning, and I see the cleaning happening. Every hour or so, our office is being cleaned, and to be able to not just talk about it, but see it in action and be about it is really helpful to that new employee, and really communicates the level of care that that organization has for that employee, for the health of that employee and their family as well, because that employee goes home to a family. So discuss it, put up the posters, but also remember employees want to see it in action as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I also appreciate that Apex has been super flexible when it comes to if you've got kids at home, or, people that are medically fragile at home and continuing to work from home, especially now that some of the states are having a second spike. And I think it's it's soothing and refreshing to have a very well articulated plan and management showing their concern for individuals as well.
Absolutely. So whether that employee is entering the work, that new employee is entering the workspace, or they're working remotely. And I would encourage that unless it's a vital employee, that they continue to work remotely, especially with the spikes that you just discussed. So being able to share those flexible policies really conveys that the organization cares about its employees and their families, especially since we're not really sure what's going to happen with schools come fall.
Right. So what about training, Brooke? When you've got an onboarding new employee, obviously starting any new job can be like drinking from a fire hose. Do you have any advice there for HR professionals and cautiously onboarding and training people, but without, giving them the fire hose from home?
Well, training isn't ever fun. I mean, sometimes it is, and I would like to think that the training I give is always fun. However, training in a new job can be, to your point, a lot to take in. And so I think it's important to ensure that as much training as you can possibly do for it to be interactive. So whether that's with a live person you're conveying to that employee that this is important enough that we're having a live person do it, or interactive components, whether that's quizzes within a pre-recorded or online training, and then making sure it's in chewable bites, right? So how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And we know studies have shown us that cognitive overload, it's a thing. And dumping a bunch of training on a new employee to ensure that, I know sometimes executives feel as though we need to have everyone working all the time and we don't want to waste money with someone not working all the time. However, with cognitive overload, they're not going to retain it anyways. So what are we talking about? So whether that's training in small bites, interactive features, or live people, it's important to keep those things in mind as you're moving a new employee through the onboarding process.
Great. And last question, Brooke, what one thing, in your opinion, professionally, can candidates do to be the final candidate right now with all the COVID insanity going on, with so many people, looking for new positions? If there was one thing that they could really focus on in helping the HR professional say yes to them, what would that one thing be?
That's a great question. This is going to sound incredibly trite, so just stick with me, Erin. Be interested. So ask a lot, which means ask a lot of questions. Make sure that it's the right role for you, that it's the right organization for you. And that engagement will ensure that that HR person knows that they're dealing with someone that is being thoughtful about their career, which means that they're not going to be on the market for long. It means that they're going to be a thoughtful employee, that they're going to be an active, strategic thinker, and that they're not going to get ghosted. Because believe it or not, even with COVID, there are some employers that are still getting ghosted. And we see recruiters talk about this all the time, that they don't understand what's happening. So being engaged with that job rec is extremely important to convey your level of professionalism.
Well, with that, Brooke Salazar, thank you for being part of the show today. Can you leave our listeners with a little bit about the consulting services that Apex Benefits provides, and then how people can connect in meaningful ways with you?
Absolutely. So I have a counterpart. Her name is Catherine Steck-Bryant, and she does compensation, which is so important right now and definitely a skill especially with bonuses coming up in Q3 and Q4 and new comp plans for 2021 just around the corner. And she can help you with a myriad of comp projects. From what I do, that can be, to Erin's point earlier, to your point earlier, I am kind of like a Swiss Army tool. So whether that's diversity and inclusion programs, that's different types of trainings, that's policies, that's handbooks, we can really work with your organization to get those projects that you've been meaning to do, but since no HR department is overstaffed, have been sitting on the back burner, we can really help you get those across the finish line. So when that executive asks you at the end of the year, have our strategic goals been met, you can absolutely reply yes. So that's what we do. And then you can get in touch with me through hr@apexbg.com. That is hr@apex, B as in boy, G as in group.com. Thanks, Erin. I really appreciate your time.
Yes, likewise, Brooke. Thank you for sharing your expertise today. We didn't even talk about diversity and inclusion, which is a huge critical topic right now. Maybe I can get you back in the future to discuss that.
I would love it. Thank you, Erin.
You can find more episodes for free on iTunes by searching The Point or Apex Benefits. Please rate, review, and subscribe to be the first to know about what we have in store for you. To learn more about Apex Benefits, please visit our website at www.apexbg.com or find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. Let's get to the point together.